Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Alfa Romeo Driver Podcast, brought to you by the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. I'm Guy Swarbrick, and this afternoon I have with me James Browning of Alfa Romeo, who is, and I hope I've got this right, the brand ambassador for GTA and GTAm. Good afternoon, James.
That's me, Guy. Yes, that's me.
So I guess the obvious first question is, what does a GTAm brand ambassador do exactly?
Great question. So clearly, the product and coming to market with it was clear from the offset that our approach in terms of the sales journey for customers was going to be very, very different from that of any other Alfa Romeo. I mean, the process is pretty similar to HC, and I think because of the limited run of cars, the fact that it was 500 cars worldwide, the fact that this type of car is the most expensive, the most kind of powerful Alfa Romeo that we've ever sold, and it was built to celebrate 110 years, and it was I think it said from a HQ perspective, a present to the Alfisti. So it was only right that it was kind of managed differently to other kind of products that we have within their product portfolio. That's not to say that the network couldn't have managed this at all, but because it's such a special car, we wanted to put a special and bespoke process in place. So my responsibility as GTA brand ambassador is essentially the whole kind of sales process, handover, realization of kind of all of the programs and all of the pieces of the jigsaw that make up kind of bringing this kind of car to market, kind of reality. So from initial inquiry to first conversation with customers, to those customers that have opted to purchase, to then take them through the kind of, the contract phase, the kind of delivery lead time, go through the spec, going through the options, going through the detail of the car, and understanding in really fine detail the elements of GTA and GTAm. I'm not saying I know everything, but I've been asked some really, really kind of out there questions and been able to kind of find out and answer them. So as a kind of port call from a GTA perspective, to be the GTA guy, for whatever better term, to be on hand to kind of guide customers through the purchase journey.
Okay, we'll come back and maybe ask you some questions you can't answer later. How did you get to that point? So what kind of roles had you done before you took over as the brand ambassador?
Within kind of Stellantis or FCA Group or Fiat Group Automobiles, it was my first joined. I started off the business on the after sales side. So initially I started off on the trade parts program, Club Canby, and was heavily involved in the implementation of that program. That's really what kind of started me on my Alfa Romeo journey. I used to go and see a lot of specialists all around the country, and then moved into a more kind of generic after sales role, parts and service across all brands. And then moved into the sales arena from a manufacturer perspective as a zone manager for Alfa Romeo and Jeep. And then that's just kind of led me on to where I am now as brand ambassador for GTA and GTAm. So it's been quite an organic journey, as it were. I'm a petrol head. I'm a car guy through and through. My passion is cars, and is definitely within Alfa Romeo. So I'm hoping that was the reason why I was asked if I was interested in this project, because if a car could have been designed for me, it's not far off for GTA.
Yeah, I guess as this is an Owners Club podcast, the other question that I have to ask you is are you or have you ever been an Alfa Romeo owner?
Yes and no. Obviously, I've had company cars, and then joining the company was the first thing that kind of got me into Alfa Romeo. And during my after sales time, I was with a dealer whose son raced in the Alfa Romeo Championship. James Bishop, Martin Bishop, was his dad that I worked for. And my first kind of drive of an Alfa Romeo that wasn't a company car was a 156 twin spark race car at Brands Hatch on a bleak October afternoon. And was blown away. And so I actually ended up buying a race car, and I raced in the Alfa Romeo Championship for 4 years. So I have owned an Alfa Romeo race car, but I've not owned an Alfa Romeo road car, apart from company cars, obviously.
Any that you would like to have owned?
Road cars. I love the sound of the Busso V6. I wouldn't really care what it was in, but that engine, to me, the sound of it when you hear it, going past the full chat is phenomenal. I have a weird kind of taste when it comes to cars, so I like cars from the 80s and 90s. That's my thing. I'm not really a huge fan of kind of that kind of really beautiful curved lines. I like boxy cars. I love the 155 touring car from back in the 90s. A 155 Silverstone would be amazing. The cars that I've had in company cars and stuff, my favorite car, 100%. I had a 159 Ti 1750 TBI. I remember I picked it up. I hadn't been with the company that long, and opened it, got in it. I was in our sales at the time, so I wasn't familiar with the product. And the carpet mats blew me away. So I remember I used to drive that car, and I would wear no shoes and socks because like the carpet mats. There was flaws on the car and stuff, but I love that car to pieces. And if there's one car that I could have kept as a company car, hands down, it's that car. Mostly down to the carpet mats, which I know is a bit of a weird thing. But yeah, I love that car.
Mats can be important. I decided to buy my second 939 Spider about 3 years ago now. And I had a short list that it had to be red or Misano blue.
Okay.
I found a Misano blue one. And when I spoke to the owner, he said the interior was blue and orange, which almost put me off instantly. And it turned out to be, I think it's blue and tobacco officially. And it's actually not nearly as bad as it sounds. But the car mats that he'd managed to source were indeed bright blue and bright orange. They don't match at all. And I was just so relieved that the car wasn't the same colour as the mats.
I think what's really cool is, you talk about that, and I had a Julia that was white with a tan interior, and we talk about these kind of colour combinations. And I think that any other kind of manufacturer, I don't necessarily think it would work. It doesn't work in my head, but something about Alfa Romeo where you can have that, you can be kind of unique and individual with the colour combinations. I think it really works.
I also like the fact they do the opposite. So you'll get a brochure, and there'll be a list of colour combinations you can't have because somebody in Italy's decided that that's just beyond taste and nobody should ever have whatever the combination is that they've decided you can't have. Doesn't matter how nicely you ask, you're not having it because it would offend the designer. I think it's great. So back to GTA. When did you first get involved?
So right at the offset. So it would have been around kind of March time last year. So just as the car was getting launched at the virtual Geneva Motor Show. And obviously there was the prototype car that was been photographed and filmed. And obviously that launch was done virtually in the end, as opposed to physical because of COVID and lockdown and all that kind of good stuff. So that was my kind of first introduction to the car, was the video that kind of everyone else saw that we released online was I saw it the same with everyone else. And then from that, then my involvement in the project, kind of steamrolled on from there in terms of understanding the car, moving forward, because the project, has with lockdown and COVID and stuff, has benefited greatly because of it, because it meant that, we had more time to develop the car from an R&D perspective and tweak and change and enhance things that may have otherwise not maybe have been done. And being involved in that and kind of understanding the tweaks and the changes, whether it be, the deliveries or from a performance standpoint or, material usage or whatever, being involved in that. I mean, I'm not making any of the decisions, but kind of having that information to be able to then discuss that with customers and retailers and anyone that wanted to know was a really strong part of the early stages. And then, obviously we started to gather inquiries, and then it was a case of going through and contacting each of them. And just kind of finding out, if the car was right for them, questions, queries, kind of where they were in terms of their purchase journey, and kind of going from there. And then all the while understanding, allocation for UK spec, pricing, getting paperwork, and all the kind of less exciting stuff done as well in the background. And then up to kind of where we are today, where we've had car at Goodwood, and we obviously had it going up the hill. I was lucky enough to drive GTA up the hill at the Festival of Speed, which was mega. Obviously, we had an event around the tracks to invite customers to come and drive, and more recently, the ability to kind of give customers, those that because we've sold out now, the customers that have ordered car, the opportunity to drive car on road ahead of their collection, just to kind of familiarise themselves with the car. So that's a very compressed kind of journey I've been on with the car.
Yeah, everybody talks about the 500 number. Is it really 500 or is it 499? Who's going to get car number 320, which I think must be the highest mileage GTAm on the build list?
It is 500. It's 500 cars built. So in actual fact, in total, including the prototype, there's 501. So the original red prototype that we had at Garsington, I think you came to that event, Guy.
Which was number 0.
000. Yeah. So that is the 501st car, if you like. But really, that was a development car that was used with Sauber and the wind tunnel, and a lot of the aerodynamic pieces were tested on that car. So it wasn't really a finished product as such. But all of the, we haven't built 500 and then another 20 for whatever else. The cars that we've used as central demonstrators, or the cars we used at Goodwood, or to go up the hill, or the cars we have with test, that we've used globally or European wide as demonstrate, are within that 500. So, the car that you're talking about, that we've had in the UK is obviously been utilised, but it is part of the 500. I think it's important to, if we number a car out of 500, right now it doesn't matter, but in 20, 30, 40, 50, beyond years' time, all of these cars there'll be history behind them. So it's important that we don't add on to that to kind of view the number or to misinterpret the 500. What's interesting for me and in later life, and I hope I'm around to see it, is kind of where all these cars ended up. Whether it's a car that was sold in Belgium or whatever, or a UK car or a car wherever it might be worldwide, kind of see what happens to it, because I'm very conscious that the here and now, it's a hugely exciting, amazing car. But as we know, Alfa's full of history, and this is a huge part of Alfa Romeo's history moving forward. So it's exciting to see where that ends. So it's important that the 500 cars are 500. A, they're all built, and B, they're all sold, and we didn't build any more than 500.
It's something that I'm always slightly baffled by, but I know amongst, I suspect all brands, but certainly amongst the Alfa owners, there is a certain cachet of tracking down and owning an express car. We quite often see people chatting on the forum about the fact that they found this car and they thought they recognized the registration number, and they looked it up and they found it in lots of car magazines, and they're really excited about the fact that they've got a car that was thrashed to within an inch of its life by idiots like me for 6 months. Very well looked after.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. And I think it's the provenance that car has, because if you have a car that has appeared in magazines, been on TV, been reviewed, that's part of the history of that car, which is is a very romantic way of looking at it, and not necessarily practical, because it's done a lot of miles or a lot of hard miles on track. I think, as you say, from their perspective and the brand and the passion that owners have, building that portfolio of history of the car is hugely important. And I'd be the same, and I'd want to keep all of the cuttings of all the reviews and all this kind of stuff, so that in years to come, depending on if I had the car, what I would do with it, there's a story with it. And I think that buying this type of car, GTA or GTAm, it's no one needs this kind of car. But it's not, okay, everyone needs a form of mobility to get to work, take the kids to school, go and get a bag of shopping. All of which you can do in GTA, by the way. It's that instinct that you want something. Even when we're a kid and we look at the cars, we have Lamborghinis, Ferraris, or Alfa Romeos on our bedroom wall, and not other less maybe kind of exotic cars. So there is a connection with it with this, although it is a 4 wheels and some metal and some rubber. But there is a connection, and so you kind of want to build that connection, understand the journey this car's been on. And certainly, if it's an older car or a car that you bought secondhand, it's certainly something this special. I think it's a very, very Alfa Romeo thing. And I'm sure it's the same with other brands, but certainly in Alfa Romeo, from the customers that I've spoken to and the people I've spoken to, it's very clear that there's such a strong passion for the brand.
And I think it's probably only reasonable to say that although you can take the kids to school in a GTA, we probably wouldn't endorse taking them to school in a GTAm unless you're strapping them to the roll cage.
Yeah. I don't, the legalities of that, I don't think are...
the nets over the helmet recesses are probably not enough to constrain a child, I wouldn't have thought.
No, not quite. Small enough maybe to fit their bum in, but that's about it.
One of the things that there was a lot of fuss made of around the time of the launch, and I've not seen anything about since, was the liveries that you mentioned earlier on. So did they remain available, and did anybody order them?
Yeah, so initially when we came out with options and colours and schemes and everything else, I think there was 9 liveries available. So at that point in time when we had the liveries, it was, okay, this is what we want to do, and kind of, rendered the liveries to see, okay, this is how they'll look. So what happened is we went through the process and started to kind of build cars and build the process to build the cars, because, the way that GTA and GTAm are built are very different to a standard Giulia on the production line. But what it became apparent is that for us to be able to get the level of quality on those liveries, some of the liveries that we had, we wouldn't be able to do. Yes, we could have done them, but it wouldn't have been up to the standard that we wanted for a car like this. So in the end, we finished with 6 liveries, and yeah, they've been relatively popular. I mean, when I say that, it's kind of relative. In the UK, we have a handful. Globally, I'm not sure the numbers, but they were available, and I think that depending on how you're going to use the car, how you want the story to unfold with your journey with that car, depends on whether it's a livery or whether it's red or green or white or whatever it might be. But there was certainly a lot of interest. But again, we talk about the kind of, if it's going to be a car that you're going to use every day to, take the kids to school or whatever, a livery might not be suited. If it's a car that you want because you have an original Giulia GTA with a similar livery, or you're going to use it on track or whatever it might be, then it makes sense, because it's part of the heritage of Alfa Romeo. Those liveries, off their cap to car, the original Giulia GTAs from the 60s and 70s that had similar liveries on. So it makes sense. There is a history behind them. So yeah, the uptake I think was great, and still rare enough, I guess, to keep those cars special. I mean, listen, whichever colour or spec you have on GTA or GTAm, it's a phenomenally special car. But the liveries just a kind of final thing on them.
Yeah, just to endorse how special it is. When we had ours for the day a couple of weeks ago, we just about finished for the day. We'd parked up, we were taking a few kind of finishing shots, and this kid came along, made 12 or 13 on a BMX, and came to a screeching halt next to us as he came past, and he said, "Is that the GTAm?" Well, say GTAm. He said, "Yeah, they've been on social media. I've been watching them for weeks." He said, "I never thought I'd see one." And he was just absolutely thrilled to have seen it. And stood around for 15 minutes while we finished so he could hear it drive off, because he'd seen the videos on YouTube. And he knew what it was and the sound that it would make. So I think the buzz is definitely out there. Maybe it's just me. If I was taking the kids to the school, I think I would have had one of the liveries. There's not a lot of point if it's tucked up in a garage.
Yeah, no. Yeah, listen, and in the sea of kind of black, silver, and white cars, that are in any supermarket car park with a livery, you're never going to lose the car.
No, absolutely not. You talked about the build process. How much can you tell us about that? Because I know the racing editions were kind of built and then shipped down to Sauber and Hinwil for all the carbon bits to be added. How does a GTA or GTAm get built?
So the shell, if you like, the monocoque of the car is built in the same way as any other Giulia on the robotized production line. For a couple of reasons, really. It's the best way to build that part of the car. The way that the integral structure of it and the way that the programming is done and the robots and all the rest of it, that robotized system works really well. So kind of why change it? From that point is where it starts to become very, very different. So within the Casino plant, there is a separate part of the factory, a separate production line that is away from the normal kind of Giulia Stelvio line, and the cars are taken in kind of batches of 10 to 15 at a time, and it's a relative static production line. So the cars do move, but they are done in batches at a time, so it's not a continual production line like it would be on Giulia. And essentially all of the parts for each of the cars are in and there to be put onto them. Right. So whether that be the rear wing from Sauber, whether that be the polycarbonate windows, the specific color of calipers or the wheels or whatever, so each serial number, if you like, so number 288 or whatever it might be, has a list of parts, and those components are in and they're ready to fit onto that specific chassis. And those parts are all in purely and simply based on the spec of the cars that we've sold. So it's the rest of the car essentially, apart from the shell, is put together by hand. So it's not it's someone there with a half of the toolkit kind of putting together. There is still some automated processes put in place, to move panels and all this kind of good stuff, because it's heavy things. But the way it's actually placed and fitted, there is a huge amount of human interaction with the cars when they're being built. There is a specific team in the factory that are only GTA, so they've been trained to build these cars, and it's a specific team to build those cars. So it's it's not as if anyone from the production line can come in and take over. There's a lot of things that happen with the car during the build process that is really quite specialized. So yeah, it's very different to a normal car. Then obviously it goes into kind of quality control checks and the painting of the cars, which again is very different. All of the badging on the car is under the lacquer. So the Quadrifoglio badge, the 4-leaf clover, the Giulia and GTAm logos on the back are all underneath the lacquer. So again, there's even different processes that have been put in place from a painting perspective. And then when you throw the liveries in as well, there's even more bespoke processes put in place to make sure that when the paint's applied, carbon fiber or aluminium or composite, takes paint slightly differently. So the processes we've had to develop to paint the car have had to change to make sure that when it comes out of the production line, it's absolutely perfect.
And given that we drove number 320, I assume they're not built in order of...
No, not in order of serial number, no. So essentially they're built in the order in which customers ordered the cars. So first customer that ordered a car last year is the first customer that's now driving around in a car. And the last person to order will be the last person to have the car. So yeah, the serial number doesn't make any relevance to when the car is built. Customers had the opportunity to choose which number out of 500 they wanted.
Okay.
As we came towards the end of the process, clearly there was only a handful of numbers left. So although there was a limited amount of choice, it was limited because limited amount of numbers left.
Yeah. And in terms of the split of sales, what's the split between GTA and GTAm?
I mean, as you probably expect with this type of car, the majority of the cars are GTAms. So certainly from a UK perspective, globally, I wouldn't be able to comment at this point. So around 65% of cars in the UK are GTAMs, and then the rest are a mix between GTA and then GTA with the aero kit. So the aero kit is essentially the GTAm rear spoiler, the front splitter, and some tuning to the suspension as well because of the additional downforce.
And the split between UK and the rest of the world, how many did we end up getting?
So I can't give you a final number. The reason I say that is because, there could still be cancellations. There could still be a couple more cars that may drop in where other markets may have cancelled. So it'd be unfair of me to give you a number, because I don't want to say a number and it be incorrect, Guy, if that makes sense, because it's still a kind of moving beast. So until I've delivered the final car in the UK and every other car in the world has been handed over, I can't give you a final number.
Okay, but I'm assuming it's nearer 50 than 250.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Yes. So now all the orders are in. What's your involvement in the process now? Will you still be involved as cars are coming to be handed over to customers? Yes.
So the both in the sales journey and the after sales journey, I'm still heavily involved in those things. So I will personally be delivering all of the cars to customers and handing cars over, going through them, and certainly even going through, and checking them, make sure everything's correct and right, and obviously all the experience pack stuff, so that the helmet, the race suit, the boots, the gloves that come as part of the car, collating that with HQ, as I say, delivering the car, but also working out from an after sales perspective, what's the plan, what's how the car's going to be serviced, when they're going to be serviced, who's going to be servicing them, the warranty, the roadside assistance, all of these kind of other elements that, because of the type of car it is, again, is bespoke, all need to be worked on and be finalised.
And have you had to have any conversations with people around the time that they sold out to tell them that they were too late?
Yeah. So, which is obviously a tough conversation to have, but it all kind of happens relatively quickly, as most of these things do. So, although we are sold out globally, I have a waiting list of customers. So, if an opportunity does come up where a car is available, whether it be cancellation or in the UK or another market, then the opportunity may arise for those customers to still be able to buy a car. And that list is ever growing. And the inquiries that I receive on the car, although have slowed down, I still get new inquiries every single week on the car, which is amazing. That even though we've sold out and we've sold out for some time, there is still a demand for people who are wanting to get into the car.
And the other question I've not seen addressed anywhere, and I'm quite surprised actually that I've not seen it addressed. Are the UK cars right-hand drive, or are they all left-hand drive?
You have a choice of right-hand drive or left-hand drive when you order. So if you want left-hand drive, you can have it. But yeah, right-hand drive is. I
assume given the build process that would be possible, but I guess that's a very small number of right-hand drive dashboards they're making, for example.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the global number of 500, the amount of right-hand drive cars is obviously in the minority. But it's important that, certainly from a UK perspective, from a selfish perspective, as I say, because we're from the UK, is that having a left-hand drive car, as you probably experienced, have left-hand drive GTA on the UK road it takes a while to get used to.
It does. I'm very familiar with a lot of hedges in Oxfordshire.
Right-hand drive, I think if we didn't offer right-hand drive, I don't think we would have sold as many cars as we did.
And I guess there's a big Alfa following in Japan and Australia and New Zealand. So I guess it's not just the UK cars potentially.
No, so there's the right-hand drive in Japan, as you say, and other countries in Asia. So, but again, even combined, it's still nowhere near the rest of the left-hand drive cars that we built.
Yeah. Any idea what you're going to do next?
Great question, Guy. No, I don't. I mean, at the moment, there's still a lot to kind of accomplish on the GTA project. It's important for me to deliver all of these cars, and I think that given how closely I've worked on this project for over 18 months, I think that I'm the best person placed to be able to develop all of these processes and programs and everything around it, so that when customers in the UK start to take delivery of their car, everything is set up and ready. So when it comes to service, they need a tyre change, they need whatever. There is a bespoke GTA process in place, so that there's no problems from an ownership perspective. Because the whole point about this car is it is a driver's car, and we want people to drive the car. So to try and promote that as much as possible, it's important that we have that peace of mind aspect in the background, so that customers have got that, as I say, that peace of mind. So when they do start driving it, if they do get punctured, we've got them covered.
Yeah, and I know the press coverage of Quadrifoglio has been pretty much universally positive since launch, but the GTAm coverage has taken that up to another level, and you've got people talking about describing it as the best sports saloon ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Given the acceleration to hybrid and electric powertrains, I guess there's a chance it's going to be the best sports saloon that was ever made with an internal combustion engine.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you raise. The move to electrification and hybrid power for all manufacturers is going to change the way that everyone buys cars and how everyone perceives cars. There will always be a demand for this type of car, a really kind of special, high performance, highly engineered car. But what that will look like in the future when we start talking about electric motors and hybrid, I think is really interesting and really exciting. Because from an Alfa Romeo perspective, when we talk about petrol power and we talk about Quadrifoglio, we talk about GTA, this is the ultimate Alfa Romeo. This is the ultimate Alfa Romeo so far in terms of what it does from a driving perspective. And as you say about the reviews and the widespread good press the car's had, it just goes to show how when we put our, we can build phenomenal bits of kit. And Quadrifoglio, as you say, is an amazing car. So to get that car and to make it as good as we've made it with GTA is amazing. So the next kind of phase of cars and electric, I do not doubt that Alfa Romeo will have in the future the best driving electric car on the market. But right here and there,
I think there's a huge opportunity in that I've not seen an electric car yet that visually I've looked at and thought, oh, that's nice. Yeah, they tend to be different for the sake of it and quite ungainly looking. But I buy the instant torque and the low center of gravity and all the other things that should make it possible to build a great driver's car from an electric platform. But then I just go back to your Busso comment, and the car could be stunning looking and have all the torque in the world and fantastic weight distribution, but still going to sound like a milk float.
I think that'll improve. I think that will change as technology evolves and kind of people's tastes more and more, certainly from a car enthusiast perspective. The things that get the hairs on the back of our neck kind of standing on edge is the smell of the smell of petrol and listening to the fuel pump prime and the sound of engine exhaust note and gear change, all this kind of amazing kind of stuff. So no, I have no doubt that moving forward with electric, that a lot of that will be replicated. It will be different. But, if you look at any kind of industry or anything that in terms of products that we buy, that you can see a gradual and quite severe kind of enhancement to all of those things. And cars are no different. But it's from a car, and I think, like I said, right from the off, a car that you need versus the car you want. That want from a raw petrol power perspective, GTA is the car.
Yeah.
And moving forward, I'm sure when we talk about what a car you need and a car you want, an electric Alfa Romeo will be a car that everybody will want.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely in line for a Tonale when they come along. But we should really get back to the GTAm.
I'm really interested. What was your thoughts when you drove it on road?
Well, Darren spoiled the day for me because when I picked it up, he said, "Where are you going to drive it?" So I told him. He said, "You really want to take it to Wales?" I said, well, yes, Darren, but I've got to have it back by 4:30. So there's no way that's going to happen. I think that was the only disappointment was the route that we went on was perfect for photography. So, but you weren't able to drive the car, in the way that it was designed to be driven. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of a shame that it definitely feels, the combination of the extra power and the lower weight, you can feel it definitely feels more responsive and sharper than a Quadrifoglio, which is already pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
But it would be nice one day to get one somewhere where you can actually really explore the the differences.
I mean, it's interesting to say that because, Quadrifoglio is an amazing handling car. There's no doubt about it. But GTA genuinely, when I've driven them back to back on, on track or on road, you notice that difference, like the turning, the sharpness of the front end on GTA is for a front engine rear wheel drive saloon car is unbelievably good.
Yeah.
And that direction change at 40 miles an hour doesn't really differ if you're doing 40 or 120 miles on track. It from a kind of the senses you have through your ears, your eyes, your hands, and your bum. What the other thing I found really, really intuitive was if the car was going to start to lose traction, I could feel it through my bum before the car would do it. So in terms of confidence, and this is the feedback I had from a lot of the customers who drove car on road, is that it gives you so much confidence to want to drive the car quicker and harder. And it's really hard to explain. Every time I drive the car, like it does something else that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm biased because I work for Alfa Romeo, but I've been lucky enough to drive a lot of really nice cars. But in terms of that feeling and that engagement and that feedback whilst you're driving and the confidence it then gives you, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece.
I think the thing that surprised me most was I was expecting it to be, noticeably stiffer and more raw, and for the to be more road noise from the plastic rear windows and all of those kind of things. And it's every bit as refined as a Veloce TI when you're not pushing it. Then
you've got it in advanced eco, you're advanced eco and automatic listen to radio 2, in the slow lane on the M4 or whatever, or on an A road.
Even in dynamic on a motorway, it's really, really refined, and
which is surprising. And that's the other big thing is that it's a car that you genuinely could drive to work every day.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's not a car that, I've sat in the car for long periods of time, either, driving it or being driven, and, get out fine. The seats are way more comfortable than you expect them to be, fixed back carbon bucket seat. You think, crikey, I'm going to have to go see the chiropractor after I've been in the car. But genuinely
they're very, very good. My last question. I mean, I think the company talked about it being a birthday present to Alfisti, which is nice, but we all know that a big part of what it was a halo car to get people excited about the brand, and people who couldn't afford a GTA or GTAm to buy a Quadrifoglio or a Veloce or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it must be really difficult given the climate we're in, and what's been happening with chip shortages and everything else, which has disrupted the market completely. But are we seeing any evidence yet that it's having an effect, that it is pulling customers in to buy, I won't use the word lesser, other Alfa models? There are no lesser Alfa Romeos.
No, 100, yeah. All Alfas are made equal, right?
Apart from the Arna. Ian Jeffcott's going to be all over me now.
Yeah, but the boxy thing, the Arna's right on my street. But let's move on from the Arna. But 100%. 100%. It's not even that people that maybe can't afford GTA, but in terms of how they plan to use a car, like I said earlier, GTA is not for everyone the same as a Stelvio, is not for everyone the same as a Giulietta, is not for everyone the same as a 155, is not for everyone, But actually, on understanding GTA and then talking about what the car has been developed from, we're talking about Giulia Quadrifoglio platform or Stelvio, is actually okay. Well, that actually suits my needs better. So how I foresee using this car, Giulia Quadrifoglio is the better car for me. I'm like, fantastic. Okay, let's do that route. Or okay, for whatever reason, GTA is not going to work, but Stelvio, or as you say, Giulia Veloce or whatever. I mean, I've had some amazing conversations with people about cars. I mean, I've spoken to 600 people about GTA, and I've had some really interesting conversations in terms of their car history and kind of what's made them look at GTA. And quite early on, we've had the discussion to kind of say, well, maybe this isn't the right car for you. And then they've gone on to inquire at a dealer, and I've passed their details on to a dealer, and they've bought. Halo effect, 1,000,000%. It has had a huge impact on a lot of people and their consideration for their next car. So even if GTA is not right for them, or they decide against GTA, for company car or family car or daily drive or whatever it might be, Alfa Romeo is 100% on their radar. And people that I've not spoken to in a year have called or texted or emailed me to say, I'm in the market for this now. Can you anything you can help on? That's non-GTA. That's another Alfa Romeo. So it's mega. And those people that I've spoken to, and we started talking about the cars, that they might have looked at other similar cars from elsewhere, but once they start understanding a kind of bit more about the history about Alfa Romeo and kind of where the Quadrifoglio badge comes from and all this other kind of stuff, you can almost hear them getting emotionally attached to the brand before they've even bought a car, which is fantastic. And from my perspective, in terms of my role within Alfa Romeo and the brand ambassador for GTA, I genuinely couldn't ask for anything more.
Oh, and when you look at some of the other limited edition cars that have been done in the last couple of years, Jaguar's Project 8's the one that springs immediately to mind, where nobody knows exactly how many they sold, but we know it was less than the 300 they planned to make. To not only sell them all, but to get that kind of halo effect is the most you could ever want, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to sell out and still have people that want to buy a car. I mean, it's a great position to be in, and to be able to then sell other models off the back of that, it's amazing.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for making the time this afternoon, and indeed for providing the car for the stand at the NEC Classic Motor Show and coming along to chat to some members. That was absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much, James.
Looking forward to it. I'm hoping to see lots of boxy cars from the 70s and 80s.
Episode 46 will be available to download from 1:30 p.m. from the club's website, YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, and everywhere else good podcasts are found. But until then, stay safe.